take a look at the handover that we have coming in from Wall Street, and when you take a look at the US markets, largely what you're looking at right now, of course, we've had quite the move when it comes to the US markets, but that we've had to sort of take a look at. But when you take a look at Dow Jones, you did see that scaling that 43,000 levels for the first time. Of course, it was a tech-led gains that we've largely seen coming in. So when you take a look at the futures, though, little change, not much of a move coming there. But then when you take a look at the winning day, of course, you did have the S&P 500 as well as the Dow managing to eke out those intraday highs. Record closes is what you saw coming in. Like I said, 43,000 mark for the first time for the Dow as well, and the S&P 500 as well did quite well for itself as well. When you take a look at the information technology stocks, the tech names, like I mentioned, those were the ones that really led this particular rally. When you take a look at the S&P 500 as well, because when you take a look at the sector, that finished 1.4% higher. That was the kind of move that we saw coming in, at least when it comes to the IT stocks. When you take a look at tech, AI darling Nvidia, 2.4% rally is what you have on your hands there as well. So that largely is the kind of handover when it comes to Wall Street. And of course, it's the corporate earnings that will be taking center stage today as well. So you do have Goldman Sachs as well as Citigroup and Bank of America that are all set to report. And beyond banks, of course, you do have United Airlines as well and Johnson & Johnson that are also on the docket. So these are the ones that we'll largely be keeping an eye on, and investors will of course be keeping an eye on economic data as well around manufacturing and consumer expectations. So that largely is the kind of handover that we have on our hands when it comes to at least Wall Street, Priyanka. But when you take a look at US crude oil, quite the fall that we've seen come in there.
Absolutely, morning Shreyansi. In fact, crude oil prices, they fall more than 2%, and this is all after the OPEC has cut the demand forecast again. Now, largely the move of the crude also depends upon the OPEC targets also. Now, when OPEC cuts the demand target, of course, this creates jitter amongst the entire oil ecosystem. Now, the demand forecast has been cut again, and its demand forecast for 2024, and not just for this year, even for 2025, they have cut the demand forecast. And there are signs of slowdown in global economies. This is what has been anticipating, and that's why the reason we've seen that crude had been hovering around 70 levels from many weeks, though it was on a surge that it has surged little, $7 to $8 ever since the Iran and the Israel tension started. But the market meanwhile continues to monitor the Middle East in anticipation of the retaliatory strike by Israel also against Iran. But then major of the cues, Shreyansi, would come from the earnings now. Let's not forget that 30 stocks of S&P which have posted the earnings so far, which has beaten the expectation. So the next big trigger is coming certainly from the earnings right now. But then this one would be a key monitorable to watch out on the move of course, the oil at this moment.
There comes a time when your heart calls for you to arise. Plant your feet solid into the ground. Decide your own limits. And then break right through them. Become something more. It's my time to rise.